What if I told you that reality has been trying to talk to you this whole time and you've just been trained not to hear it? Every day, little moments show up in your life, moments that feel too aligned to be accidents. The song that starts playing right as you think of someone, that number that keeps showing up on clocks, receipts, license plates, or that random stranger who happens to say exactly what you needed to hear without even knowing it. You brush it off as coincidence, but somewhere deep down, something feels different. Something inside you whispers that meant something. And you're right, it did. These moments are called synchronicities. They're not glitches. They're not random. They're not cognitive errors. They're messages carefully placed signposts inside reality itself, guiding you towards something greater. Ancient civilizations knew this. Philosophers studied it. Mystics built entire practices around it. But modern society, it calls it luck, chance, randomness, because the system doesn't want you to know the truth. Because the moment you realize what synchronicities really are, the illusion begins to crack. You start to see the universe as it actually is: responsive, intelligent, and alive. In this video, we're pulling the curtain back. We're going to break down what synchronicities are, why they happen, and most importantly, how to use them to consciously shape your life. Let's start with this. From the moment you were born, you were taught to believe in a world of logic and structure. Everything had to make sense. Everything needed proof. Anything that didn't fit into that neat little box was dismissed as imagination. But what if that conditioning wasn't an accident? What if it was designed to cut you off from something far deeper? Think about when you were a child. Back then you noticed things. You were more in tune with energy, with patterns, with the subtle rhythm of life. You could sense when something was about to happen. You knew when someone was thinking about you. You felt when something was off, even if no one said a word. But what happened when you tried to share those moments? You were told it was just your imagination. And slowly you stopped trusting yourself. You stopped noticing the whispers. Instead, you were taught to believe only in what you could see, measure, or explain. Education played a huge role in this. You weren't taught how to trust your intuition. You weren't shown how to listen to your inner knowing. There was no class on recognizing synchronicities or understanding energy. Instead, you were taught to memorize facts, follow the rules, and obey authority. Creativity and abstract thinking were replaced with standardization. Feelings were replaced with formulas. And over time, you stopped paying attention to the signals. You were handed a worldview one where everything is random, disconnected, and mechanical. A cold, indifferent universe ruled by blind chance. But that version of reality is incomplete. And here's the twist: it was never about teaching you the truth. It was about keeping you blind to it. Real science, the kind that explores the unknown, has always been about curiosity. But what we get from mainstream systems is rigid materialism, a worldview that tells you everything can be explained away, that your experiences of meaning are just brain glitches. You keep seeing 11:11 on the clock, it's just confirmation bias. You meet the perfect person at the perfect time, just luck. Everything gets stripped of meaning until all that's left is randomness. But here's what they don't want you to know. Some of the greatest minds in history knew better. Carl Jung, Nikola Tesla, even Einstein. They all understood that reality isn't as disconnected as we've been told. Carl Jung even coined the term synchronicity after seeing countless cases where unrelated events aligned in ways too precise to be dismissed as chance. But society still mocks this stuff. Start talking about synchronicity openly, and you'll be labeled woo-woo, spiritual nut, irrational. Meanwhile, those who stay inside the cold, mechanical model of reality are called intelligent, logical, grounded. And that's by design, because if you want to control people, the first thing you need to do is disconnect them from their own power, from their own awareness, from their own truth. Because the second you start noticing synchronicities, I mean really noticing them, you wake up to something massive. You are connected to something infinitely intelligent, something that's been trying to reach you through signs and signals your whole life. This isn't spiritual fluff. This is the deeper layer of reality, the one they never taught you about in school. And trust me, some of what I want to share goes way beyond what I can say here. That's why I created Insights Academy, a place where we go way deeper into the stuff that's too real, too disruptive for mainstream platforms. If you're ready, there's a link in the description to join, and you'll also get a free ebook of the Kabbalion, one of the most powerful texts on universal law. Back to synchronicities. The reason they don't want you to notice them is because they are proof that reality responds to you. They break the illusion. They show that life isn't random, that it's aware, that it's a mirror. And once you see the pattern, once you start paying attention, you can't unsee it. That's when the real awakening begins. Because suddenly everything starts to feel connected. The timing of that text message, the conversation you overheard, the book that accidentally fell off the shelf and opened to the exact page you needed to read. You realize the signs were always there. And now comes the next question. If synchronicities aren't random, then what are they really? Where do they come from? And why do they seem to happen more and more the moment you become aware of them? Let's go deeper. At some point in your life, you've had a moment so perfectly timed, so eerie in its precision, that it made you pause. Like really pause. Maybe you thought of someone you hadn't spoken to in years, and then they texted you. Maybe you opened a book randomly, and the exact sentence staring back at you was the answer to a question you'd been quietly wrestling with. Or maybe numbers 111, 222, 333 kept showing up again and again, almost like reality was leaving breadcrumbs hoping you'd follow. These aren't accidents. They're not lucky coincidences. They're not your brain playing tricks. They're not meaningless. They're messages. And the more you pay attention, the more they start to show up. But here's the real secret no one talks about. Synchronicities aren't just signs. They're responses. They're how reality communicates a kind of energetic dialogue between you and the deeper intelligence that we're all plugged into. The universe isn't this cold, random place of dead matter just spinning aimlessly. It's an intelligent field, an alive, aware, conscious web of energy, and your thoughts, intentions, and emotional states. They act like signals, tuning forks that shape how that web responds. Carl Jung saw this over and over again. In therapy sessions, dreams, even in historical trends. He realized these strange coincidences were actually meaningful alignments, events that shouldn't logically be connected, but were, deeply. He called this phenomenon synchronicity and believed it was evidence of something hidden, a deeper ordered layer of reality that traditional science can't explain. But this wasn't a new discovery. Ancient cultures already knew this. Eastern philosophies called it karma and divine timing. Mystics saw it as the movement of the soul, and in quantum physics we call it non-locality, the idea that everything is interconnected beyond time and space. So why does mainstream science avoid this simple? Because if synchronicities are real, then the universe isn't random. And if the universe isn't random, then what is it? Let me hit you with this. The entire universe is built on patterns. Fractal geometry, spiral galaxies, golden ratios in flowers, recurring cycles in nature, it's all connected. Your DNA has repeating sequences. Your heartbeat follows rhythmic waves. Even your thoughts follow recognizable loops. So why would your life be any different? Why would your emotions, relationships, and desires be outside this pattern? They're not. Synchronicities are how this invisible order bubbles up into your awareness. They're the little winks from the universe saying you're on the right track. Or, hey, pay attention here. Something's trying to shift. They're the code breaking through the simulation. So the next big question is, this who or what is sending these signals? Is it your higher self? Is it the universe? Is it source? Or are we living inside a grand intelligence, a kind of simulation where the synchronicities are guidance from something or someone beyond the screen? Here's what matters. Regardless of the source, the purpose is the same. Synchronicities exist to wake you up, to shake you from autopilot, to nudge you out of numbness and back into co-creation. And here's something wild. The more you notice synchronicities, the more they happen. It's not because you're imagining them. It's not just selective attention. It's because your awareness is tuning in and your frequency is shifting. Let's get into the mechanics. Your mind is not just observing reality, it's shaping it. Modern neuroscience even proves this. There's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system, or RAS for short, And it filters your reality based on what you focus on. Ever bought a new car and then started seeing it everywhere? That's RES at work. The cars were always there, your brain just didn't filter them in until now. The same thing happens with synchronicities. Once you start tuning your awareness to signs, symbols, patterns, your brain stops ignoring them. It starts highlighting them. And suddenly what felt rare begins to feel common. But it gets deeper than brain science. Let's go quantum. At the smallest level, reality doesn't behave like a machine. Particles change their behavior when they're observed. The act of observation alters the outcome. This is called the observer effect, and it means reality is not fixed. It responds to consciousness, to you. Now layer that with the law of vibration, a core metaphysical principle. Everything is energy, and everything vibrates at a specific frequency, including your thoughts and emotions. When you constantly think from a place of fear, doubt, or lack, you attract more of those experiences. But when you shift your energy, when you radiate alignment, curiosity, joy, the universe starts reflecting that right back. That's why people who believe in synchronicities experience them more often. They're not imagining them. They're resonating with them. Their consciousness is tuned into a different frequency. And here's another layer. Your subconscious mind plays a huge role in all of this. While your conscious mind is focused on your to-do list, your subconscious is constantly scanning, organizing, and connecting dots far beyond what you're aware of. When you set an intention even passively, your subconscious starts nudging things into place. It's aligning people, moments, and even obstacles to guide you toward what you've set in motion. This is why belief matters. If you believe in synchronicities, your subconscious gets the memo. It starts looking for them. It starts aligning with them. It starts creating more of them. Skeptics say that's just selective attention. But here's the thing, if it were just that, why do these moments carry so much personal meaning? Why do they so often arrive at moments of major decisions, transformation, or revelation? Because synchronicities aren't random. They're tailored. They're uniquely crafted responses based on your thoughts, feelings, and inner shifts. But here's where most people stop. They notice a synchronicity, they get chills, they smile, and then they do nothing. They treat it like a fun coincidence, not as the call to action it truly is. But what if I told you this? Synchronicities are not just messages to observe, they're invitations to evolve. So now the question becomes, how do you start working with them? How do you recognize them, interpret them, and most importantly, act on them? Let's go even deeper. Recognizing synchronicities is only the beginning. The real shift, the life-changing part comes when you learn to work with them. Because synchronicities are not just signs to notice, they're bridges. Bridges between who you are and who you're meant to become. Between the life you're living and the one that's waiting. So how do you cross that bridge? It starts with one thing most people forget to do. Pay attention, not passively, not occasionally, but with full awareness. And here's what to look for, because synchronicities often show up in three distinct ways. 1. Numbers. Repeating digits like 1111, 222, 333. These aren't just angel numbers, they're vibrational codes. They carry energetic frequencies that align with shifts happening inside of you. In ancient traditions, numbers were sacred, the very structure of reality. So when you start seeing patterns, don't brush them off. Ask, what was I just thinking when this showed up? What emotion was I feeling? What decision am I sitting on? 2 symbols. This can be anything: a bird that keeps following you, a word you hear multiple times in one day, a stranger who says the exact phrase you were silently thinking. Synchronicities often wear the costume of the ordinary. But when they feel charged, meaningful, or oddly precise, they're not ordinary at all. Trust your gut. If it feels significant, it is. 3. Perfect timing. That moment you're about to give up and an opportunity appears. That instant you're wondering about your next step and a song plays that answers you. The random meeting that solves a puzzle you've been stuck in for years. This is divine timing. It's not an accident, it's orchestration. Now, once you recognize a synchronicity, what's next? You pause and you ask better questions. What am I being guided toward? Is this a confirmation or a redirection? What part of me is this sign trying to activate? Here's a powerful tool: a synchronicity journal. Every time something strange, aligned, or meaningful happens, write it down. Over time, you'll see the patterns. You'll notice how symbols repeat. You'll realize that certain signs come during very specific emotional states or life transitions. And as the patterns become clear, so will your next steps. But here's where most people stop. They notice the sign, they feel the alignment, and then they hesitate. They wait for another sign. They second guess. They let fear talk them out of it. But the people who live fully in flow, they act. They trust that the moment the universe speaks, it's their move. They walk through the door even when it's unclear what's on the other side. Because here's the truth: synchronicities multiply when you act on them. The more you respond, the more guidance you receive. The more you trust, the more aligned life becomes. It's like tuning into a frequency. The clearer your signal, the more direct the communication. So now we ask the final question: how do you consciously attract more synchronicities into your life? Here's the Formula 1. Set an intention. Clarity creates movement. The more specific your desire, the easier it is for the universe to respond. You can say it out loud or write it in your journal. Show me a sign I'm on the right path. Reveal the next step in my journey. Bring me the opportunity aligned with my purpose. Then release attachment to how it shows up. Let it come in ways you don't expect. Because the universe doesn't speak in straight lines, it speaks in symbols and synchronicities. 2. Align your vibration. Your emotional state is a magnet. If you're caught in doubt, fear, or overthinking, you block the flow. But when you lean into gratitude, curiosity, and trust, your energy opens, and synchronicities rush in. This is why meditation, breathwork, nature journaling, they're not just spiritual activities. They are alignment tools. They clear the noise so the signs can come through. If you've ever been in a season where life just clicked, that wasn't luck. That was energetic alignment. 3. Take inspired action. This is the one most people miss. Synchronicities are not just cute moments, they're assignments. If you see the same symbol over and over again, don't just smile, move. If you meet someone who feels like a doorway, follow up. If an opportunity keeps knocking open the door, the universe rewards movement. And once you start walking, the path unfolds. Because synchronicities aren't passive. They're alive. They're active. They're dynamic responses to your frequency. When you follow them, you enter a state of flow where life becomes less about effort and more about alignment. You stop pushing, you start receiving, and life begins to feel like a conversation. So now you're at a choice point. You've seen the signs, you've heard the truth. What will you do with it? Because most people after all of this will go back to sleep. They'll notice a synchronicity, then ignore it. They'll receive a sign, then second guess. They'll feel the nudge and still choose comfort, but not you. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you knows you're ready. So don't just listen, act. Write down your signs. Follow the patterns. Step through the doors that open. Because synchronicities are not rare. They're everywhere. They've been waiting for you to finally see them. And now that you do, your whole life can begin to shift. If this message resonates, let us know in the comments by writing, "I see the signs." And if you're ready to go even deeper into the hidden mechanics of synchronicity, frequency, and conscious creation, check out the link in the description to join Insights Academy and receive your free ebook, The Kabbalion. Let's go deeper together.